Who is the best payment processor for your online business? Hi, my name is Maria Sparagis, and I work with thousands of 7- and 8-figure merchants figuring out their biggest problems with their payment processing. And today, I want to walk you through who is the best payment processor for your online business. Now, many people starting their online business think it's very simple and there's really nothing to payment processing. But once you get more seasoned and tenured with your online business, you start realizing how important it is to have a very reliable and good payment processor behind your business. This is really the engine that is driving your business. Without getting a good payment processor or without payment processing and being able to accept credit cards online, you are pretty much out of business. So I really want to walk you through what are the main differences between the options that are available for you so you can make the best choice for your online business. Now, there are two main types of payment processors. One is called a PSP. You might hear that word often, PSP, or Payment Service Provider, or Merchant of Record, MOR. So what that means is essentially what Stripe does for you. Stripe, PayPal, Adyen, Braintree, those are called PSPs. So what they do essentially is they have a whole technology platform, and if you want to run your online store on there, you go, you sign up, and they basically give you access immediately to their service so you can start processing payments. Now, the second option is to get your business a merchant account. This process is a little bit more involved. You have to fill out an application, send over some documents, kind of like when you're opening up a bank account or getting a mortgage. You have to fill out a little bit of paperwork, and then you obviously have to give your IDs and a couple of different documents to identify yourself. And then the bank does some verifications to verify if they can support your business. And then they give you what is called a merchant account that you're able to add to your online store. So you're able to accept Visa, MasterCard, and all different credit cards on your online store. Now you're wondering, Maria, why would I choose to get a merchant account if I can just sign up, with a PSP like Stripe, for example, and I'm able to go right away? And that's what I'm going to talk to you about, because there are some key differences here, and it is very important for you to understand at what point one might be better for the other, or when you might need both as an option for your online store. Now, let's be clear. Stripe, PayPal, Braintree, Adyen are actually very good payment processors. They really rely on technology. Specifically, Stripe has a very powerful backend with a lot of technological tools that really make life easier for online business owners. And, all in all, they make it very simple usually to set up and get started so you can prove your business concept. So if you are a startup, if you're just kind of starting to prove your theory, if this is going to be a good business and so on and so forth, what you want to do is maybe sign up for a provider like Stripe, and it likely is your best solution to get started. What you want to do when you get started on your business is prove that you can actually make some sales before you start getting into paperwork and getting your own merchant account and perhaps, an integration that might be involved there. You want to make sure that what you're actually selling can be provable into the market and you can actually make some sales before you get into that. So if you're just getting started, or if your volume is under $25,000 per month in sales, what you want to do is you want to stick with Stripe or PayPal or Braintree and so forth. Usually the common option is Stripe or Shopify payments as well, because these are the PSPs that are mainly integrated to a lot of different platforms online that you may use for your online store. For example, Shopify is connected to Shopify payments, and then Stripe is connected to a lot of other popular shopping carts, which makes it very simple to plug and play and get started on your business. And now, in terms of businesses that Stripe can easily support, if you have low ticket, one time, no subscription, and you're just selling a consumer good, that's usually the best type of business for Stripe. Just a regular e-commerce store. Once you start looking into subscription models and something more aggressive in terms of higher ticket, Stripe is really not your best option. I'll explain why in a couple of minutes. Now, also one thing to keep in mind, Stripe is fairly affordable. I know nobody likes to pay any fees for accepting credit cards, but they are charging 2.9% plus 30 cents a transaction. Now, obviously, if you read the fine print, there's some extra fees in there, which makes Stripe about 3.5%. And that is a lot of money to be paying out of pocket in order to accept payments. But, on average, unless you're a very high volume business, you should be expecting to pay about 3%. So, shopping around in order to save a very little amount of money is probably not your best bet as you're starting your business, or if you're kind of scaling at the beginning. So the question is, Why would anybody not use Stripe if setup is so easy and they have a great technology? Now, let me explain and dive into this a little bit further. If you've been following my channel for a little while, you'll notice that I have a lot of episodes talking about Stripe closing accounts, Stripe freezing people's money, Stripe being very difficult to get in touch with, not having any type of real support that you can talk to. So obviously, if you're getting your business started, these are not really big concerns for you. So that you can skip over that. But as your business is scaling, for example, you may need more support. You may have more questions. You may get a couple of disputes, and that's where Stripe is going to become problematic for you. And that's why your best payment processor is not Stripe once you get over that 25K per month in sales. Now, once you've scaled over 25, 50,000 plus per month, you can get better rates by getting your own merchant account. So pricing obviously is one factor. And obviously the higher your volume, the more discounts at scale that you can get. Now, fees put aside, another thing that you want to do is you want to create some redundancy for your business. So if things are kind of seemingly going well with Stripe, but you're scaling and things are growing, and maybe you've added a subscription to your product and so forth, you could start getting the process for a merchant account ready, so you have a payment processor ready for you as your store scales and so forth. Now, what a merchant account is going to do that's different than Stripe, as I said, better rates as you're scaling, of course, and the more volume you have, the more discounts at scale you'll get. You will also get chargeback mitigation tools. So chargebacks or disputes are a big concern for online business owners as things progress with online business and customers are starting to understand what the chargeback or dispute process is. A lot of businesses are now seeing higher rates of fraud and higher rates of disputes and chargebacks. So your merchant account provider will give you some tools and some options to mitigate that. So you can prevent chargebacks, keep your account safe, and obviously avoid these costly fees for disputes and chargebacks. Now, if you're working with Stripe, they have some limited tools, but they won't help you set them up. They won't explain how they work. And, some of them unfortunately can't work properly because Stripe is a PSP type payment processor. There are some chargeback mitigation tools that won't work with Stripe specifically. So you are limited on what options you have to mitigate your chargebacks. Also, if you have your own merchant account, you can tweak your fraud settings. Stripe has something called Stripe Radar, and you can play around a little bit with that, but they do limit what you can turn on, turn off, and so forth. Now, if you have your own merchant account, you'll get access to your own gateway, and you can tweak your own fraud settings to ensure that they adapt to your business model. And what I mean by that, for example, if you have a couple of upsells or if you have a subscription type business, you can decide what information is going to be verified in order for you to approve a transaction. For example, if you have a digital business, you may only want to check a zip code for an address. You may not want to take the full address and so forth. So these are options that are open to you, whereas with Stripe Radar, you're a little bit more limited as to what features and what settings you can turn on and off. On your own payment gateway with your own payment processor, you will be able to get that flexibility to really adapt it to your own business model. Also, by doing these tweaks and by really understanding your payment gateway, if you're in industries like crypto, supplements, coaching, low ticket offers with a subscription and so forth, you will likely get higher approval rates. Now, I have a lot of episodes about this, about payments getting declined and so forth. And what a lot of online business owners don't realize is that your payment processor has a huge impact on your bottom line and how much money you make. So payment processors can decline or approve transactions based on their algorithms. And the more strict your payment processor, the less approvals you get, which means less money in your pocket. So you're spending a lot of money on ads and you're obviously making sure that you're getting as much traffic as possible to your page. You want to make sure that you have a payment processor and the best payment processor for your business to be able to approve as many transactions as possible. Now, when you have your own merchant account, you have that flexibility to speak to a human being. So this is one thing that may seem a little bit trivial as you're starting your business, but actually getting support by a person is a very important thing as you're scaling your business. When you're working with a provider, a PSP, for example, like Stripe, they will transfer you to a million different AI bots, and you will have to go through different FAQs and knowledge bases and so forth in order to be able to maybe finally speak to somebody, but most people usually give up because it is very difficult to actually speak to somebody at Stripe. When you're working with a merchant account provider, for example, like my company, Direct PayNet, we help online business owners get their own merchant account. And when you have a question, obviously we have knowledge bases and we have ways for you to get your own support. But if you need some support and you just want to talk to somebody, you can pick up the phone, call us, and we'll be able to answer your question. We'll be able to look at your approval rates. We'll be able to look at your decline transactions and help you strategize how to get more approvals and so forth. So this is obviously something that you want to do when you're scaling. You're over $25,000 a month, but it is a very important part. I mean, I've seen, online business owners get 3 to 5% extra conversion rate on their approvals just by tweaking their fraud settings or by, making some changes in their payment gateway. And that unfortunately is not possible when you're working with a provider like Stripe, because they won't coach you on what to do to make your payment gateway adapt to your business model. Now, the one, pink elephant here in the room is, Stripe makes it so easy. PSPs make it so easy to integrate. I just have to plug and play into my shopping cart. I'm good to go. For example, Shopify payments into Shopify, in a couple of seconds, you're ready to go. Now, it isn't actually any more complicated to get set up with your own payment gateway and your own merchant account. In fact, one thing that a lot of online business owners don't realize is that most merchant account providers, for example, like my company, Direct PayNet, we can plug in to pretty much any technology, right? So you just have to let us know what shopping cart you're working with, and we'll work our way backwards and tell you how to get that integration done very quickly and very painlessly. For example, I'll give you two popular gateway names. There's NMI, which is Network Merchants, and there's Authorize.net. Most merchant account providers in the US plug in to those gateways. Those gateways plug into most popular shopping carts. So set up actually an integration is almost as simple as it is with Stripe or Braintree or Adyen or Shopify payments. It's really not a big deal in terms of plugging that in and getting the technology to work. The important thing is you work with a merchant provider that can help you understand the technology part. So when you call us at Direct PayNet, you will tell us what shopping cart you're using and we'll do the work for you, and we'll tell you this is how you're going to plug in, and we're just going to give you a very quick plan. So the misconception of, you get your own merchant account, oh wow, that's so hard to integrate, that doesn't exist anymore. Technology has actually caught up and you're able to get the integration as fast and as easy as with any PSP. Now, in fact, most popular shopping carts, WooCommerce, Kajabi, ClickFunnels, Shopify, all those plug into either NMI or Authorize.net. So you see it's actually, and the process is just as easy as it is with Stripe. You just enter an API key, a username and password, and you're good to go. Now, the one thing, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, the key difference is that if you want to work with your own merchant account, you have to go through an application process. Now, this application process, it's a couple of pages. The bank that you work with will want to get to know you, will want to understand your business, and really just verify a couple of checks and balances to ensure that they're able to support you. Now, the advantage of doing this application process is as you're scaling, as your business is growing, you don't have to hold your breath that, a couple of disputes will come in and they'll shut you down because they don't understand your business or they don't support your business. In fact, if you look at the prohibited and the restricted list on Stripe's terms, it is prohibiting, pretty much about 80% of online businesses. So, anything that deals with supplements, subscriptions, coaching, digital products is restricted with Stripe. So, they accept it, but they have very restrictive policies against it. So when you get your own merchant account, you apply. It takes about, 5 business days to get set up all in all. After you send in the application, we do our verifications. But once you're done, you're live, you're able to breathe easy that you can scale your business without, shutdowns or money getting frozen or, some complications that arise very frequently with providers like Stripe. Now, in order to summarize kind of what your best course of action is and the best payment processor for your business, here's a quick chart with a couple of the key things you need to remember. Now, the setup time, as I mentioned with Stripe and other PSPs, it's instant. You sign up and you're ready to go within, about 20 minutes or so after you fill out a couple of questions that they ask you. With a merchant account, I would say, on the low end, it's about 3 days. On the high end, it's about 7 days. That's usually around the time that it'll take to make some verifications. And obviously, the longer it takes for you to send in some information, the more the delays add up. But, on average, I would say 5 business days is the amount of time it takes to get set up with your own merchant account. In terms of fees, Stripe is a flat 2.9% plus 30 cents a transaction. And there are extra charges, for example, if you have virtual terminal orders or if you have foreign transactions and so forth. So on average, they say it's 2.9% plus 30 cents a transaction. What I'm seeing most of the time when I see processing statements from Stripe, it's about 3.5% all in when you're running an online business because of the different fees that add up there. With your own merchant account, it could be about similar, it can be less. It really depends on your volume, and you do have some negotiation that you can do there. One thing you have to keep in mind is as you scale with a merchant account, you will have lower fees and you'll be able obviously to negotiate at different times when you're working with a specific provider. Now, in terms of risk tolerance, what I mean by risk is fraud, chargebacks, disputes, and so forth. With Stripe, the first couple of months, even if you get 1 or 2 disputes, it can be problematic. They may freeze your account for further review. It may cause a shutdown. So their risk tolerance is actually quite low. I've seen dispute rates of 0.3, 0.4%, and Stripe just shuts down the account. With your own merchant account, that wouldn't really be a problem at all. So the risk tolerance with your own merchant account is higher. You can also communicate with your merchant service provider and advise them of any issues. For example, if you had a shipping delay that caused more disputes and so forth. So you can obviously speak to somebody and figure out any business problems that you're having and ensure that they can support you through them. Unfortunately, that's not possible with Stripe. If you get a couple more disputes than they are interested in or that they can accept, they will shut you down. And like I said, that rate is actually quite low. I've seen businesses with a couple of disputes just get shut down or their money frozen, or 30% reserves is another popular tactic that Stripe uses. As I said earlier, for chargeback support and dispute support, the tools are very limited with PSPs like Stripe because they have one large account that they subdivide through different merchants. What happens is that you're not able to use a lot of the popular alert tools because the account that you have from Stripe is actually shared amongst a lot of different merchants. So these tools can't actually zero in on which chargebacks are yours or which chargebacks are somebody else's. So there are some tools available with Stripe, but they're just not as strong as the tools that are available with your own merchant account. With your own merchant account, you get your own merchant ID. It is your account. It is not shared with anybody else. So there are some upscale tools that you can use for alerts that can prevent chargebacks, that you can use to contact customers in order to prevent risk and fraud. So there are quite a few tools. Actually, if you do need some help in setting any of those up, my company Direct Payment can help you set up chargeback alerts with any account that you have. And we're agnostic. We can work with any merchant service provider, and it actually will decrease your chargebacks and your disputes considerably. I mean, I've seen businesses with 2% chargeback rates get under 0.5% after using these tools. So they're really amazing. You should really think about adding some dispute tools and some chargeback tools on your online store so you can kind of breathe easy at night in case some disputes come in. And now, in terms of integration, one thing that PSPs like Stripe and Adyen and Shopify Payments had up until a couple of years ago was, hey, we're so easy to integrate. You can just plug us in. We're ready to go and so forth. And now, as I said, with popular gateways like Authorize.net and NMI and so on and so forth, it's just as easy to integrate your own merchant account into your shopping cart. So integration is pretty much a non-issue at this point, whether you decide to work with a PSP like Stripe or your own merchant account like the one that you would get from my company Direct Paynet. So these are both very easy to set up and nothing that you should be worried about if you're looking to make the switch over to your own merchant account. So all in all, to summarize, if you're doing over $25,000 per month in sales, what you need is to, get the best rate possible. You need to have stability. You need to be able to speak to somebody if you need support. And you definitely need more control in your payment process so it really adapts to your business model. So the clear winner in that case is getting your own merchant account. Now, as I said, if you're just starting out, or if you have a very small store and you really don't have very much support staff and so forth, you may still want to work with a PSP like Stripe or PayPal or Shopify payments. So, both systems actually serve a purpose. You just need to figure out where your business is going and what stage of your business you're in and make the best choice. Now, let me explain how my company, Direct PayNet, can help your business. My company, Direct PayNet, works with online business owners that have varying levels of risk. So whether you're a low-risk business or a high-risk business in the crypto space or supplement space or online coaching, we can help you get a merchant account. And as I said earlier, we can help the tech side and the integration side go very easy. You can reach out to me or somebody from my team and we'll walk you through it. And what we do that's a little bit more special than other payment processors is that we'll help you with fraud rules and fraud checks and really understand your business. So the payment gateway and the fraud rules and so forth are all set up properly to adapt to your business model so you can get the best approval rates for your business. Now, this is especially important if you're running an online store, you're paying a lot of money for your traffic, you want to capitalize on getting the most approvals possible, and you want to outsource this to a company like mine, Direct PayNet, who can help you figure out all this stuff. You don't need to hire another resource to really, dig into payment processing, and you can just let us know what you need and we'll help you out. Now, also, if you're just kind of looking for a plug and play merchant account and you want to look through FAQs and really set it up yourself, that option is also available for you if you work with us. So we're really a flexible payment processor and we can work with a lot of different business models. And as I said, if you're just getting started, you want to get yourself a couple of months of processing history with a PSP like Stripe or PayPal and so forth, and then you want to graduate over to your own merchant account. Now, the important thing for you to understand is that whether you're working with a PSP or you're graduating over to your own merchant account, it is going to be seamless to your customers. Whether you're working with Stripe or you have your own merchant account with Direct PayNet, for example, your customers will not know the difference. I mean, it'll be a very seamless process and you'll be able to create your own checkout page to make sure that the customers feel comfortable in your checkout process. So either option will be invisible to your customers, so you don't have to worry about transitioning from one to the other. It will really be a seamless process. Now, if you're watching this video and Stripe has already shut down your account or is holding your money, I'm going to put a link down below of what you can do in order to ensure that you get your business back up and running. And feel free to reach out to me. Myself or somebody from my team will help you get everything set up so you can have some stable payment processing. If you have any questions or you need any help, feel free to message me down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content. And feel free to give me some ideas of other episodes you'd like me to record for you. Have yourself a great day.